You think crypto is going to crash?
I think there will be a complete crash, but I don't know when. I'm not giving investment advice, but I do believe that we will be funneled into their currency. And to my opinion, it's starting to look more and more like XRP.
Damn.
XRP seems to be the only one that can sustain the amount of transactions, okay? It has enough, speed. You need speed to transact business. So I look at Bitcoin like gold, like the gold of electronic currency. It stores the most value, but the XRP is kind of like the fiat dollar, in that analogy. But again, I'm not an expert on this stuff. I just know what the final world looks like. If crypto takes over our currencies, you're going to live in a very controlled world. Your Tesla's going to turn off. You're not going to be able to buy a certain amount of meat. They can program how many times a day you're allowed to have water or this or that. That's the world they want. Complete domination, surveillance, cameras. Okay, that's what's coming. I promise you. If they even leave this on the internet.
It's like communism 2.0, it sounds like.
Well, it's going to make communism look like Disney World. Another thing I want to clarify. I'm sick and tired of people like Laura Loomer, okay? We all know that the war in the Middle East has been a complete disaster. Millions and millions of people are in risk of losing their lives, starvation. As someone that lost his family in a war, as someone who saw what brutal occupation looks like when my family was killed during the Kosovo War in 1998, as the last part of the former Yugoslavia resisted the brutal regime of Milosevic. As someone that was born in America and used to go back every summer, and I used to see what it was to live in an apartheid state, because my people were treated as third-class citizens in their ancient homeland. Seeing what's been going on since October 7th over there, and the amount of, just so much going on, okay? Now, do I agree with Jewish Americans when they're like, well, where's the outrage about Sudan? Where's the outrage for the Uyghurs? Nobody even mentions the Uyghurs anymore in China. No one mentions them. 2 million people, by the way, right?
Damn.
Same amount of people as Gaza. I promise you, those shoes you got that were sewn were probably sewn by the fingers of one of the Uyghurs, okay, that was thrown into a concentration camp, okay, that no one talks about anymore. So if I was Jewish, I would have, the problem we have today is no one puts themselves in other people's shoes.
Perspective.
It's very hard to do. Now, if I was a Jew who lost his whole family in the Holocaust and all this other stuff, and then you grow up over there, right, in the Middle East, and you grow up in that, and then you're taught all these things, you're going to look at it like the whole world hates me, we're in danger, we're going to get wiped out, right? Because trauma has consequences.
Generational.
Okay? Of course. So what we have going on over there is there's no excuse for it. And it breaks my heart because there's a lot of Jews that are standing up and saying what's going on over there is just wrong. Justify whatever you want. What happened on October 7th is absolutely horrific. Any loss of life, civilians innocent, to me is horrific. But two wrongs never make a right, ever. And in my opinion, Israel has lost this war, not militarily. And I said this on my podcast back on October 8th. They have lost the hearts and minds of most of the world.
Wow, you said that on the 8th.
I did. I said, be careful with your response.
Wow.
Because this is an opportunity you could show people that you're the more civilized ones. And it's very hard to justify. Why am I speaking even about this? I cannot stand people that are very pro-Netanyahu, I'll call it, because I am definitely not anti-Jew. I come from the Albanians, the only people that saved every single Jew during the Holocaust.
Wow.
The royal family, shout out to Prince Lech, okay? His grandfather invited all the Jews to Albania during the Holocaust, a predominantly Muslim country, 70% Muslim, okay? But Albanians have never allowed religion to dominate. We are the most open people when it comes to faith. And we didn't turn away our Jewish brothers and sisters when they came to our homeland. But what makes me angry is that because of what's happened since the inception and the creation of the state of Israel, okay, you have this narration being pumped out there by the media, by people like Laura Loomer, by all these big influencers who want to paint this picture that Islam is the enemy of Jews. And it makes me angry, Sean, because it couldn't be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for the Muslims, there wouldn't probably be a single Jew left on the face of the earth. That's actually a fact.
Wow.
I challenge anyone to go to ChatGPT or Google and just type in, how were Jews treated under the Muslim empire? And it'll pump out all the history. I'm going to read a couple excerpts here, okay? In many periods of history, especially during the Middle Ages, Jews were often treated more tolerantly under Muslim rule than Christian rule. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, initially had cooperative relations with Jewish tribes. Later, political and military conflicts led to some confrontations. They paid a tax called the jizya. Everyone wants to create Islamophobia. They had to pay tax under the Muslim empire. What place on earth did you not have to pay tax? Medieval history, you had the king coming and taking all your food, left you guys starving in medieval Europe. In the Muslim world, yeah, they had a tax system. And guess what? That gave you freedom of religion, and the Jews had their own courts under the Muslim empire. So imagine, they paid a tax, they were allowed to practice their faith openly, they had their own ruling within the Muslim empire, under Muslim rule.